Well, my name is David Hayes, and this is Elementary Statistics. I broadcast this via Zoom each class. So if you're under quarantine or something like that, you can just sign off from home and not miss anything. I also record these in YouTube video format so that if you miss something during the class and you need to go back and listen to it, then the video is out there. And the video will be under the individual week where we're covering it. So after I get done recording it, I'll put it right up here. Okay, and here's obviously the Zoom link, one that says that. We're going to get into the syllabus briefly, but first I want to talk about the access code. There's a link here, Cali Digital Access, and if you click this, then for this course and for every course you're taking, you potentially will see access code out here. So you come out and you pick the appropriate course, and you come out here and you view course materials. That gives you an access code. Then let me go back. What that does is it gives you access to My Lab and Mastering Course Home and the homework. The homework and tests are going to be out in a product called My Math Lab. You do them at home electronically, or at the high school or library or wherever you go. The tests are set up for multiple attempts. I think there's like 50, 99 attempts or something like that. So you can take the test over and over until you get 100 if you want. It's not a one attempt that they're set up as. Now, if I click this My Lab and Mastering Course Home, my view might look a little bit different than yours, but it'll kind of generally look the same. I have some additional options over here you don't. The quizzes or homework be right here. So I click the homework. You could do them here. You see, there's two links here. I'll also show you another place where they're at. These say past due. Don't like stress about that. That's just because I copied over from previous course, and I'm not going to change the dates on it until we cover that in class. So now, if you do want to work ahead because you got something coming up, a surgery, a trip, or something like that, I can open them up. So it's not a big deal in that regard. How it works is when you click one of them, comes up with questions. You click that. Click question 1. It comes up with this, and it says, okay, blah, 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 and I'll choose, let's see, I'm trying to think which one's wrong. Sample. And then I click check answer. It'll tell you if you got it wrong. I don't know how many attempts it gives you on these. Probably 2 for this type, if I had to guess. When you get it right, it says well done. So you can click next question. If you have trouble, can't figure it out, if you do the question help over here, here's a video you can watch, kind of talks about this. This refers to the textbook. You can click ask my instructor. That sends the problem to me. I don't care how many of these you have to click. If you can't figure it out, don't sit there and spin your wheels. Click ask my instructor to send it to me, and I'll help out them. Now don't email me and say, hey, I can't figure out section 1.1 number or 1.1.4. It's easier if you click ask my instructor because I actually get the actual question. Everybody gets different questions in my stat lab, my math lab. Saying that you can't get number 5 doesn't mean anything because everybody has different numbers. That's why it actually sends it to me. Okay. Let's see. you don't have to save, by the way. It saves automatically. I'm not even sure why that's there. You see how it saved the one we did? Quizzes and tests will be out here. And again, they're past due. Don't worry about that. And you see chapter 3 here, you got an infinite number of attempts. Now, you don't want to spend the rest of your life doing it. But typically, after I make it available, I'll give you a week to do it. Do not wait till the last minute. If you wait till the last minute, internet's down, I won't have any sympathy. You got an entire week to do it, so do it multiple times. Take it that first night when I assign it, go ahead and take it. Get a 0 on it, and take screenshots, whatever you need to write down what the problems are. Because each time you take the test, it just changes numbers. So it isn't like you're getting an entirely different problems. It just randomly changes the numbers. So if you print out your first attempt and you go off and you figure out how to work it, then your second attempt you can do very well. Okay. Don't worry about the grade book here. I should actually remove that because the grade book and the Blackboard is what you should look at. Here's a HTML ebook. There's also an e-text, chapter contents. For some reason, I cannot go into these with my account. I don't know why. So, but the HTML ebook is what I go into. And open the alternate version of your book. Though I've never had students tell me they can get into that. So I think it's mainly me. And this brings up the textbook. And I can go through and read and so forth if I want. Okay, in addition to that, let's see. In addition to that, if I go into week 1, you also see individual links here. And so if I click that, it'll take me directly into the assignment. So you don't have to go through all those steps like I just showed you. So more direct way. And by the way, I like questions. So if you ever have any questions, just stop me. Say, I don't understand what you're saying, or just ask. I'll never make you feel bad for any questions you have. Everybody good so far? Okay. Here's a Matthews link. If I click that, it comes up here. Here's math lectures. So I click that. Here's elementary statistics. Click that. The PowerPoints I'll be going over are right out here. So I may go kind of fast where you don't got time to write down everything in the PowerPoint. That's for a reason, because they're right out there. You don't need to write it all down. If you want to print those off ahead of time, you could. That's up to you. Mallory? I didn't either. I think you're just sleeping in, and it's hard getting up. Oh, okay. And don't click the WebEx video. Click the YouTube video if you want to watch the video. It's basically going to get the class. So there's kind of 2 recordings: the YouTube video that I'm recording now, and then those out there also. Now, very important. I'll mention this hopefully when it comes test time. Under my classes here, if I click here, you'll come down and it says Elementary Statistics Online. This right here is where I went through and worked those chapter tests in YouTube video format. So I'm going to get ready for the chapter 3 test. If you click that, so these problems here, if you watch those, should help you almost directly with the test. So Okay. Let's see. That's everything there. Syllabus is right under here on the link says syllabus. Let's see. There's my work number, email. No textbook. It's an ebook. You'll need a TA3, TA4 calculator. They're not necessarily cheap, but they're worthwhile. You can't use your cell phones on midterm or the final. Obviously, you can do whatever you want at home. So you need to know how to use that when it comes to midterm and final exam time. Statistics is the hardest course I ever took in college. Got a D's, F's on the test. I had resigned myself to having to take the class over. And he must have curved it because I got a C in the class. I was never so happy to get a C in my life. I never would have to see statistics ever again. When you do these by hand, some of these problems are hideous. One problem may take you 2 or 3 pages worth of work. And the instructor I had did not give partial credit. It was either right or wrong. And it's not hard work. It's just column after column of adding and subtracting and so forth. Well, if you give me 20 numbers and I have to do 5 columns of addition, multiplication, subtraction, I will type in one of those problems wrong in my little scientific calculator. And that's what I do. I screw it up. Multiply this number's wrong, or I do it in my head. 2 times 3 is 5, and then all of a sudden my entire answer is wrong at the end. Very challenging by hand. Technology has made it so easy. So I sometimes have students, well, I'm not going to buy that. I don't got money for that. And at some point in time, they find a TA3, TA4 during the semester when they're spending hours and hours on the problems and they're envisioning, there's no way I can take a midterm or final if I have to spend 45 minutes on one problem. No, you can't. It's meant for technology. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and read this. You can read all that. I'm just kind of covering the highlights. Homework's 20% of your grade. Chapter test is 40%. Midterm's 20%. Final is 20%. For the midterm and final, I don't know how many pages of notes for those. We'll talk about that when we get closer to there. I would say open book, but people don't prepare for open book and people do worse. So statistically, open book is bad for students because you don't prepare. And I remember one open book test I took at Wichita State in Linux. That's a operating system like Windows. And I didn't prepare. It was an open book, open note test. And I came in there, and I'm not sure if I've ever done so poorly on a computer test because you had to be prepared ahead of time, because you got a limited amount of time. And that's the way the midterm final is their time. Okay, let's see. If you got some kind of disability, you're working with our coordinator. I don't know if that's correct. So James Brown, assuming it is. Yeah, that's something I can't edit. Then let me know. Send me an email saying, hey, I'm working with James Brown. Just give me a heads up. I'm going to be expecting something from him. If I don't get something from him, then I'll follow up with him and say, hey, such and such said they're working with you and I haven't received anything. You don't have to tell me what your disability is. That's actually illegal for me to ask. But just tell me I'll be receiving something from this person. You can read all those. I slapped some kind of schedule down. We'll get behind this first week, so that's not a big deal. I'm planning getting through hopefully 1.1 and 1.2. I don't think we'll get farther than that. They require me to give you some kind of schedule, so I slap it down there. Let's see. I guess this will be about the midterm right here. Midterm. Oh, I already had it on there. Boy, I'm blind. Okay, let's get that. Okay, midterm exam right there. Questions on that? Okay. Some sections are really easy. We'll go through them fairly fast. Some are harder, take a little bit longer. So, um, can tell you exactly how we'll proceed. Well, let's go ahead and start with 1.1. Statistics is probably the most important mathematics of our lives. I don't think that's underestimating it. Use statistics constantly. You don't actually put numbers to them, but use them constantly. You're driving somewhere, and somebody looks like they might pull out. You're sitting there mentally figuring out what's the chances they're going to pull out in front of me, right? All through your driving, you're sitting there mentally, somebody's playing alongside the road. You're sitting there figuring what's the chances that kid's going to run in front of me, so forth. It's a horrible thing. I hope the dog's okay. But my son was driving, and this kid was playing by the road with two dogs, and I could just almost envision what was happening. I told my son to slow down, and the car in front of us, the dog got all excited and ran out in the street, and the car hit it. The dog ran away, and I'm hoping it's okay. I love dogs. But I was telling my son to slow down because I figured the probability of a dog getting excited while they're playing with the kid is pretty good that they're going to jump out the street, right? The car in front of me didn't figure their probability very much. So again, we use this constantly. Don't hardly ever put numbers to it, but we use it in our day-to-day lives. Statistics is the science of collecting, organizing, summarizing, analyzing information to draw conclusions or answer questions. In addition, statistics is about providing a measure of confidence in any conclusions. Now, I'll go ahead and apologize. This first chapter is going to be boring as can be. You'll have me sit here to read these. It gets exciting in chapter 2 with creating graphs. It gets a lot more exciting in chapter 3. So I know it's about as dull as can be to have definitions read to you. A big part of statistics is predicting the future, predicting something you don't know, a scientific way of doing it. Maybe like at one of the places I work, they had to predict the bookings, the sales they were going to have for the coming year. Well, how do you predict something for the coming year? Well, you have to look at past trends and see where it's going. Here at the college, they have to do predictions. We're going to build a new dorm. They're talking about building housing here in Wellington. But you have to predict, look at the trends, see how the numbers are going. We're going to build a building nobody's going to be in. Are we going to have anybody that comes to Wellington to stay in dorms? Don't know. Okay, population, entire group of individuals to be studied. Now, this does not have to be big, does not have to be small. This is whatever you're studying. Maybe I'm going to study everybody in Wellington. So that'd be my population. Individual, person or object that is a member of the population being studied. Obviously that's a person, citizen of Wellington. Sample, subset of the population is being studied. 3 of you probably would be a good sample of Wellington. I think you said you were from Oxford, so you wouldn't be a good sample. Good in the sample. So you would be a subset. So I'd ask you 3 what you think about the chicken place that closed down and get your opinions. So that then I could use that maybe to figure out what should be changed for the next chicken place. Statistic, a numerical summary of a sample, like an average. So I find the average age of the sample, which would be U3 in the classroom here. So that'd be called a statistic. I called it the average, the average age. Parameter is a numerical summary of a population. If I'm trying to find the average of everybody in Wellington for their age, see, it's still called average, but it's based upon the population. That's a parameter. It's easy to tell statistic because it refers to a sample, a survey, a poll in some form. First problem, we want to determine the underlying value as a parameter or statistic. The average grade for class of 25 students in elementary statistics was 83.2. Do I say anything about a survey, sample, poll? No. So this would be a parameter. You might say, yeah, but a class is small. Population can be small. It doesn't have to be big. So yeah, this is a parameter because this is a population we're referring to. In a survey of 12,000 high school students, 74% of respondents indicated they achieved at least once on an exam in the past year. What's a key word that tells me there? Yeah, exactly. Survey. So that tells us it's a statistic because we're dealing with a sample. It's a big sample, 12,000, but that's still a survey. And again, in a survey is found, key word here, survey, is found 10% of married people have had extramarital affairs in the past year, and that again would be a statistic. Now, I made this problem up, and this is why I go with the textbook almost exclusively for problems. I don't try and make them up, because I'm not very good at it. In a particular elementary stats class, only 50% of guys wash their hands after using the bathroom. What would you say that is? Could be. Very well could be. Only 50% of the guys wash their hands after using the bathroom. Somebody asked, well, is it a stats class just with guys, or is there any girls in it? Because if there's girls in there, what does this guys implies? Like you say, a sample, statistic. If the stats class just has guys, it could be a parameter. This is a bad question. I've left it in there on purpose just to really demonstrate how some of these are kind of tricky. Maybe you think it's this, and it's really the opposite. Don't stress out about that, because it's kind of your interpretation of it. Here's generally the process of statistics. Identify the research objective, collect the data needed, describe the data, and then perform inference. Based upon the data, infer some kind of result. This problem says determine the research objective, the population being studied in a sample, investigation of repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation in depressed adolescents. This research proposal aims to better understand the neurobiology of depression in adolescents and how many repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, RTMS, may therapeutically impact brain function and mood. The research will be the first study of evaluating metabolic changes in the brain as a result of RTMS treatment in depressed adolescents using magnetic resonance spectroscopy. If I say those words right, I'm not very good at medical. Have I done medical? Yeah, okay. It's like you cringe every time I'm saying these words wrong. Okay, research objective. I don't know what this is, but it seems like they're applying magnetic stimulation of some sort. But the research objective is hopefully to do what? Help depressed adolescents in some way feel better. So, population being studied, it would not be adolescents, it'd be depressed adolescents. So the depressed adolescents across the entire United States, across the world. See how it's kind of vague? Which would it be? If we apply magnetic stimulation to adolescents in the United States, is that different than magnetic stimulation applied to individuals in Russia? I don't know. Sample. Sometimes they don't really say right here what sample is, but sample we assume is a subset of the depressed adolescents. There's no way you can apply magnetic stimulation to everybody. This one, Beat Bullying, found that up to 44% of suicides among 10 to 14-year-olds may be bullying related. Charity said 26 out of 59 cases reported in national media were linked to intimidating behavior. Okay, research objective. What are we studying? Whether bullying causes suicides, right? Population being studied. It's kind of morbid, but we're studying 10 to 14-year-old deaths. So, obviously, can you ask them? Can't ask them, right? So you have to find some other way to do it. And they were talking about, that they looked at national media to see if it indicated bullying. The sample, and they talked about the sample here, it's at 59 cases. So, 59 cases specifically out of the national media. They didn't go to the family members and so forth. They just looked in online newspapers. And then, by the way, will an online newspaper mention whether they committed suicide in the first place? I've never seen that. Have you ever seen somebody's obituary or anything where it said that they were bullied before their death? Never. So I don't even know how this, this is actually a study they did. I'm not even sure how they came up with the results they did. Descriptive statistics refers to like average and so forth. And here they're finding percentages. Now some definitions. Descriptive statistics consist of organizing and summarizing data. Descriptive statistics describe data through numerical summaries, tables, and graphs. This is like finding the average. Now, if I find the average age of everybody in this classroom, is that meaningful? No, who cares, right? Now, the reason why I find the average age is so I can do something meaningful with it. So next semester, I can maybe plan something different if I know the average age is X. Or maybe I can report to the government saying, hey, this is the average age of students in statistics, and they can send me more money or something. So really, this is just purely describing it. It's only meaningful when you do something with it. Inferential statistics uses methods that take a result from a sample, extend it to the population, and measure the reliability of the result. How long would it take me to go around and talk to everybody in Wellington? Forever? Would I even be able to talk to everybody? No. If people see me at the door, they might not even answer, right? So I don't get to talk to everybody. So by taking a subset, the sample, and talking to you three, I do not have to visit every house in Wellington and so forth. I can ask you what you think about chicken. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, the crazy chickens. Okay. I can ask you what you think about your chicken eating habits, and then I can extend that and say, okay, this is what Wellington believes about it. We have variables, characteristics of the individuals within the population, weight, age, etc. Now, you either got qualitative or quantitative variables. Quantitative is where you got a number. It's a meaningful number, so you can like average it, for example. Is age a quantitative variable? I can, yeah. How about your social security number? That's a number. No, I can't average social security number. It wouldn't mean anything, right? So social security number is actually considered qualitative. So don't think just because it's got a number that it's going to be quantitative. It has to be a number you can average, do math calculations with. How about hair color? What would that be? Qualitative category or quantitative a number? Qualitative. Number of pets? Quantitative. You can average how many pets people have. Social security number I already talked about, that's qualitative. Assess value of a car? Is it quantitative or qualitative? Quantitative, exactly, because we can average it. You could do all kinds of math on it. Now we got two other definitions here. Discrete and continuous. This refers to quantitative variables, numbers. Discrete means there's no decimals. The key part of continuous is it has decimals, or potentially could have decimals. It's kind of confusing which one's which, but go look for decimals when you're doing that. If you get them wrong, no big stress. I don't put definitions on tests anyway. So, amount of oil in a car at any given time. And boy, I haven't put oil in my car for 15 years. So hopefully I get this right. It's quarts you put in it, right? Like 5 quarts car may hold. But does it hold exactly 5 quarts? No, it might be like 5.2 quarts, 5.25 quarts. So you can keep on measuring it at a finer level. So since it has decimals, it would be continuous. Number of deer in a forest, would that have decimals? No, that'd be discrete. Now you say, what about part of a deer? You know, if some animal eats half of it, is that like 0.5? I guess you could argue that. So you see how statistics kind of be kind of iffy on some of those. How about age of a student? Can you have decimals? It's a tricky one. It is continuous, but we treat it as discrete. Like if I asked somebody in here how old they were and they told me they were 20 years old, I tell them they were lying. Because unless they were born this day, this hour, this minute, this second, this microsecond, this millisecond, and so forth, they're not 20 years old, are they? They might be 20.25734 Now, if I asked you how old you were and you gave me decimals, I think you're something odd about you, like you're a robot or something. It's very strange. So again, this is something that is continuous, but we treat it as discrete. So you're saying, well, which one's right? Well, if you're doing a study, you would want to define that you're going to treat it as discrete or continuous. So you define those parameters in your study. How about temperature of the water in a swimming pool? Is that a discrete or continuous? Continuous. Yeah, it's not exactly 90 degrees, 80, whatever the temperature is in the swimming pool. It's not exactly 80 or 70. You know, it's 70.1, 70.3. So you can measure it finer and finer. Okay. Some more definitions. Individuals, person or object that is a member of the population being studied. Variables, characteristics of the variables within the population. Data describes characteristics of an individual. These are not exciting. Here, it says identify the individuals. Our individuals are Sam, Sally, and Bill. So we got 3 individuals. The variables. Variables are their hair color, age, and weight. Data, of course, is right in here. It says determine whether each variable is qualitative. Hair color would be qualitative, would mention that. Age is continuous or discrete, however you'd want to say it. Weight. Well, right away, even if I want to treat weight as discrete, I notice this has a decimal. So that right there means it's continuous. Okay, levels of measurements of a variable. Nominal level of measurement is a name, label, or category, like hair color. I think of this as, anybody take French in high school? No? Seems like I'm about the only one that ever took French. Everybody takes Spanish, which is better. I don't know what I'd ever do with my French. Should have put that effort into Spanish, but oh well. Nominal, that's a French nom, name. So you're given it a name. Ordinal level, properties is nominal, but you can range by rank or order, car size. I think of this as order, so you're ordering it in some way. Small, middle, big. Interval level measurement, properties of ordinal and differences in the values of the variable have meaning, like year of birth. Addition, subtraction are okay. And then ratio level measurement, same properties of interval and the ratios of the values of the variable have meaning. 0 in this measurement means absence of the quantity. Multiplication and division can be performed at this level. For example, value of a car. I don't, it's sad. I read the Bible, go to church, so forth, but I couldn't really tell you much about years. Because our year is based upon the birth of Jesus, right? Whether you agree or not, in terms that's what it's based upon. So, year of birth. If back a year after Jesus, if they said what year were you born, would they say 0? I don't know. So I don't know when that actually took effect, but 0 here is 0 different than 0 here. 0 here means absence of the quantity. If I said somebody is born in year 0, then that doesn't mean that it's absent, right? Now, you might argue a value of a car. If it's worth 0, doesn't that mean the car doesn't exist? I'd probably say so, but is a car worth something? You can always take it and get it. They sell them for like $200 up in Wichita. You take the car in there, get it towed, or drive it in there. They'll give you $200 cash, no matter what it looks like. I can't think what they do with it. Not recycled, but you know what I mean. What? Yeah, or not necessarily impound, but there's a place that they do scrap metal where they like recycle. They do recycle it in some manner, but yeah, they give you 200. The impound, I think, sends cars over to them. It's been in wrecks, but yeah, they definitely sell a lot. Okay. Determine the level of measurement of each car. Color of a car. Obviously, that would not be mathematical in any sense, so it can't be those. Can you order color? No. You could order like your favorite color, that'd be an order, right? But just generally, color of a car, that'd be a nominal level. So that'd be the type of measurement. Class in high school, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. Is there an order there? Yeah, you can't be a senior before you're a freshman, right? You have to be a freshman first, sophomore, junior, senior. So that's ordinal. It has an order to it. Now here's year of graduation. Well, that's kind of like the interval, the level measurement, the year of birth, right? The year of graduation. Zero of this measurement means absence of the quantity. You might say, well, what's a year you graduated? Year 0. Well, you never say that, do you? But like I say, you can get confusing on that. Weight of students. Zero in this measure means absence of the quantity. Can you have somebody weigh zero? No. So it's a little bit confusing in using that. Again, don't get too hung up on this. This class is not about gathering data. It used to be. I used to have people come up with a research objective, gather the data, and then do analysis on it. And then I had enough people cheating one year. I kept doing this. It was over in Arc City. I'd have them pick 10 blocks and count how many brick houses were on there, and they recorded their data. You'd be shocked at how many people just made up streets. Well, they didn't make up streets. They'd look like probably in Google Maps. They'd find a street, and then they'd make up how many brick houses were on there. I'd have one person that would report there's 5 brick houses on there, and then there'd be another person that said there'd be 1 brick house. So after some checking, I realized that people were making up data. Questions on any of that? Okay, observational studies versus design experiments. Explanatory variable, the variable explains what's happening. Response variable, the variable is controlled by the explanatory variable. Number of hours playing video games explains your grade on a test. You know, if you're playing 40 hours of video games a week and you get a 10% on a test, there's probably a direct connection there, right? So one explains the other. Observational study, that's where you observe it. You don't try to influence it. Now, by you being in a classroom, are you altering your behavior? You are. If you're being observed, you react differently, right? So this is kind of hard to do, and we'll talk about different ways you can do that. Design experiment, that's where I'm applying some kind of treatment. I had one student one semester. He didn't alter his behavior in class. He was in business calc. He was over in the far side of the room, the right side, and he'd sit there and pick his nose all during class. And every time I looked over there, I mean, it unnerved me. So I taught the entire class just look at the left-hand side because I'd see him picking his nose and just he didn't alter his behavior at all, you know. But you know, the average person does alter what they do. They wouldn't. Yeah, I just think about him. Now I had a graduate math course I went into, and I always sat in the back there because if I got bored during class, and I'd just sit there and watch other students. And one person there, he'd sit there and pick his nose all during class too. They gave me something to do though, because I'd be sitting there. I wouldn't have to think because I was trying to stay awake. And I'd sit there and watch him. And I think, oh my God, don't you have any social graces at all? You know, you lived in your mom's basement all your life. You know. Now, the guy, don't get me wrong. The guy's probably a genius. You know, he'll invent the next cell phone that you'll just ooh and ah about while I'm sitting there watching Family Guy every night. But he didn't alter his behavior at all. He's actually teaching at a college now in Wichita. Okay, so these are asked us to tell whether it's an observational study or an experiment. Motto: observed caretakers of children in public places in California, Nebraska. He found 43% of the children he observed had male caretakers. Males were more involved with their children in recreational settings such as playgrounds, but in restaurants, females were more involved. Are they just observing, or did they apply some kind of treatment, some kind of like medicine, or yeah, it's just an observation, isn't it? Now, busy places, you could do this observation. They don't even know if you're watching them, right? Smaller places, they will, you know, you alter your favorite behavior by somebody being there. My wife came in. I helped her learn a little bit about computers on Monday, and we wanted to get away from the house, so she came down here, and I don't know what we started going on about, but she's kind of loud, and I was a little bit. I didn't get loud myself. It's my workplace. So now there's people in this building, and so forth. And then she lowered the tone quite a bit. So again, just by recognizing people around you, you change how you act. Okay, team researchers at the University of California, Berkeley has discovered a way of genetically modifying the gender of frogs. When the scientists treated a group of male frogs with atrazine, some of the animals will be demasculized, some become feminized, some become hermaphrodites, if I'm saying that right, and some of the frogs are actually being converted into reproductively active females. What would this be? Exactly. So it's an experiment. They're not just observing the frogs to see what happens, they're applying something. In this case, like you say, that atrazine. This is a real interesting one. Graham and Wells, 2001, conducted a study of bar patrons by recording late-night aggressive behavior in a Canadian tavern. They observed and interviewed. And that right there tells you observed. But 117 aggressive incidents were observed in 93 nights of the study. Most of the observation periods were weekend nights between midnight and 2:30 a.m. Patrons were unaware that research was being conducted. The researchers documented patterns of aggressive behavior in this particular bar. For example, they found nearly 75% of the incidents involved males only. Also, moderate or higher levels of physical aggression were observed in 67% of the incidents. About 33% occurred outside the bar's premises. Graham and Wells identified several triggers for aggression in bars, including problems with bar staff, rowdy behavior, and interpersonal relationship problems. And we already said this is an observation because they said it. We just observed. Didn't apply the treatment. Can you believe that? Now this is done by a college that, and this is I think in Canada, but yeah, that's in Canadian tavern. It's hard to believe that a government would pay for this study to be done, right? It's just like, I know a lot of you haven't been to a bar, but what happens between midnight and 2:30? People are pretty drunk by that point, right? So does it make sense that you would have more aggression, more things happen? Yeah, it does. Why do you even study that? And if I don't drink anymore, but back in my drinking days, I think I only saw one incident with no, I never seen two women fighting in a bar. One incident I was in a biker bar, and this woman came up, and I don't think she was very happy with her boyfriend. She was going to smash that beer mug against his skull. She didn't, but that was kind of an exciting time. Yeah, most of them are guys. Okay. Recent study in Journal Marketing Communications found that men with beards were deemed more credible than those who were clean-shaven. Study showed participants pictures of men endorsing certain products, and some photos of men were clean-shaven, and others, the same men, had beards. Participants thought the men with beards had greater expertise, were significantly more trustworthy, and when they were endorsing products like cell phones and toothpaste. The study showed participants pictures of men endorsing certain products. Are they really applying any kind of treatment, giving them some kind of medicine or magnetic? No, they're just observing. So I would say this is an observational study. Systematic study of the beneficial and adverse consequences of long-term elevations of plasma levels of bovine, if I'm saying that right, growth hormone, BGH, was conducted in 2 lines of transgenic pigs. 2 successive generations of pigs expressing the BGH gene showed significant improvements in both daily weight gain and feed efficiency, and exhibited changes in carcass composition, including a marked reduction in subcutaneous. Okay, bad. Well, right away, what are they applying? Yeah. So it's an experiment. Applying some kind of whatever that is. Obviously meant to grow for growth. Now, this confounding occurs in a study when the effects of two or more explanatory variables are not separated. Therefore, any relationship that may exist between an explanatory variable and response variable may be due to some other variable or variables not accounted for in the study. I had somebody in an online stats course ask one time, well, how can we find those confounding variables? How could you? It's a good question. Unfortunately, there is no answer. Because confounding variables means it's a variable you're not thinking about. So you can get ideas. Like I could ask you, how could I make the class more exciting? If I just think of my own ideas, then I can't do that. But if I ask all four of you, you give me new ideas, right? So oftentimes it's collaboration that helps you see those. There was a famous study we'll talk about later in the course where the University of California, I think this is who got sued. They got sued for being biased against women in their graduate admissions, and they weren't. But the data sure looked like it. But there was an extra variable that came in that they hadn't considered, and so we'll talk about that later on. Try with the more famous ones in terms of confounding. What determines somebody's success in college algebra? Do you think it's sports? I don't think so. I studied sports down at the main campus. And no offense, I'll offend everybody at some point. But the baseball players, as a rule, down there in the main campus, do poorly or used to do poorly in college algebra. I'd have some every once in a while that just excel. So it's not everybody. The volleyball team, um, and women's softball. How do you think they did? Fantastic. Um, couldn't tell you why on these. Basketball was kind of hit and miss. It was better than the men's baseball. I looked at all of this trying to find some kind of pattern. See, because if you can see a pattern, then you can put something in place maybe to help. Why are these people doing poorly? So many variables existed though that I'd look at the high school. There's a high school you go to determine it. Some of you are coming out of the high school, the finish up of the Summit. Is that what it's called? Summit program? Are you still using it? Got rid of it. So if you do poorly this year in academics, was it because of Summit? Was it because of another variable? Was it because of the pandemic? There's so many variables that come in. It's really hard to figure out some of these sometimes. Lurking variable. Explanatory variable is not considered a study, but it affects the value of the responsive variable in the study. Now, this is an important note down here. Observational studies do not allow a researcher to claim causation, only association. I make this claim, and I stick to it, although I'll put a disclaimer on. But there's no proof that smoking causes cancer. Do you think I'm true? I'm correct? I am correct. There is no proof that smoking causes cancer in humans. In order to prove that, you would have to steal babies when they're young, put them in the little controlled environments, cubicles, where you control every aspect of their life throughout their lives. And at some point in time, you'd start forcing them to smoke. Do we do kind of experiments like that? No. Now, do they torture animals in that manner? Yeah. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it, but they got smoking bags they put over like pigs' heads and cows' heads. Yeah, they don't put cigarettes in their mouth. They put the bag around there, and then they introduce smoke in there, and then they see if that causes cancer. Um, but again, that's not humans, is it? But do they have evidence that suggests that people that smoke have a higher rate of cancer? They do. The studies do show that. But since they don't control everything, then we can't say it causes it. That we only say there's an association. So there's a high connection. You could think of it that way: a high connection between smoking and cancer. So I know it seems like kind of a trivial change between the two, but that becomes important. I'm trying to think if another example of that. There's this drug I took for a while, Fen-Phen. It's not legal anymore, or parts of it are legal now, but the part that really worked well is illegal. Is a diet drug, and you couldn't get it in Kansas. You had to go down to Oklahoma. Everything's legal in Oklahoma. I went down to Blackwell. You'd see a doctor there. He'd give you and the weight went off you just like you could not believe. It's basically legal speed. So you can imagine what did you do to your personality and so forth. I think I lost 80 pounds on it. My brother lost 100 pounds. I mean, it was just a miracle drug in that sense. But people started having ruined hearts, and so they made it illegal, even in Oklahoma. Now, you might say, well, did the Fen-Phen cause the ruined hearts? Probably. I won't argue that. Is there proof that it did? No. Because again, we'd have to raise somebody in a controlled environment and control everything about their lives and see if Fen-Phen actually ruined hearts. Even then, genetics screws it up because everybody's different, right? Is there another reason why obese people like me might have ruined hearts? Too many donuts? Too many ho-hos? Yeah, so that could be another reason, right? So, I mean, there's definitely some other variables that could be coming in to affect the results. So, anyway, it's gone. Okay, various types of observational studies. We got cross-sectional studies, collect information about individuals at a specific point in time over a very short period of time. Case control, these studies are retrospective, meaning they require individuals to look back in time and require the researcher to look at existing records. People don't remember well. These don't really tend to do well. Cohort studies identifies individuals and studies them over an extended period of time. Okay, last definition of the section. Census, a list of all individuals in a population along with certain characteristics of each individual. Census costs a lot. The U.S. Census in 2010 cost $5.4 billion. I need to get this updated, and since we've had the 2020 census now, though the cost may not be associated with it. But this is important. This is how they figure out how to spend the money. So they got all this tax money coming in. They tried to really emphasize people to fill out the census because that's how Wellington gets its money back. If half the city doesn't turn in the census, they think there's less people here. You get less money for your education, less money for the government, and so forth. So, but again, very expensive to do, not only in money but also in time. Could I do a census of everybody in Wellington? Exactly. There's no way. Right. Not everybody will respond. There may be somebody living down there in the woods in a trailer, off the grid, and I don't even know they're down there, by the river or something. I'd never know that. Yeah, these are real hard to get. Now I could do a census of this class. Currently, there's 4 people in the classroom here. I could definitely do a census of you guys. That's easy, right? So a census is not impossible, but it's not a true census what the United States does. Let's see if I can get into 1.3. I don't think we'll get into this today, because part of what I'm going to do here is how to do it on your calculator also, with a simple random sampling. And I'm assuming not everybody has a TA3, TA4 today. Is that true statement? Okay. So next time we'll get into the calculator part, and we'll see how to do sampling via the TA3, TA4, along with covering some more definitions. So we'll stop there. If you have any questions, stick around. But otherwise, have a good day. We meet so Mondays and Wednesdays, right? So I'll see you Monday at 8 o'clock. Uh-huh.
They told me, oh yeah, you can access it
Um,
but they wouldn't give me like an access code.
when you go to your course in Blackboard,
Right.
you go to course content.
Mm-hmm.
There's this link here that says Cali Digital Access.
Mm-hmm.
So you click that. And then for each of the courses that has like an access code or something, you'll see this view course materials here.
Okay.
And if you click that, that'll give you your access code.
And the digital access.
Right.
Okay.
Give it to you.
It just keeps showing me like a lot of pictures, right?
Yeah.
So they have to refresh to access your content.
You might have to do it actually on a desktop or laptop.
Okay. I didn't know if it was that or if it was the My Lab mastering course. Oh, blah, blah, blah.
No, that it's that one, and that'll give it to you. And then once you get that, then if you go into this My Lab Mastering course home and you click that, it'll ask you to create a user ID, a code and so forth. And at some point in time, it'll ask you for that access code.
Okay, so that's what I got to. I got to like asking for the access code, and I'm like, where's the access code? So okay, that explains it. Thank you.
I didn't realize that didn't work on tablets.
I didn't either. Have a good day.
You too.